March Madness, baby. It's in full effect. Welcome to the College Basketball Net Profit Show, Pub Sports Radio, Thursday, March 16th, the first official day, as far as I'm concerned, of the NCAA tournament. None of that first four bullshit, baby shit that we saw the last 2 days. This is the real stuff today. This is when it feels like the tournament has arrived. That first Thursday when you have games all day, all night. This is the arrival of the tournament. Ian Cameron, Connor Mack with you, ready to break down the Thursday night games. We'll get to the rest of the games taking place tonight. And we will also hit up the afternoon games tomorrow on this show today. And then, of course, when Cabby and Connor join you tomorrow at 5 p.m., they will have the Friday night games on the show tomorrow. So that's the way we're going to handle it. Let's root home the best bet, one of the best bets I gave out on the show yesterday for today, and that was Arkansas. They're off to a nice start against Illinois, leading that one. So Pigs, let's go. Keep it going, Arkansas. The Hogs off to a good start there. Furman taking down Virginia, Connor Mack. Just touch on what we've seen so far before we get into the games today. Huge upset. Well, not huge, but again, they were only a 5.5, 6-point dog, but still a big upset. And Virginia just, went ice cold offensively down the stretch, which was the fear we all had about that team. And Kihei Clark is going to have nightmares for a very long time about that horrendous inbounds pass and turnover that fed Furman's wide open three by Pegas there, Pegues, I should say, for the game-winning shot. And next thing you know, Furman advances and Virginia's going home.
Yeah, it's tough for a guy, Clark, such a great career there at Virginia. But, the last guy, I mean, maybe there's someone else from the national championship team. And, man, right when that was up in the air, it was like, oh, then he grabs it, dagger three, nails it. And he hadn't hit a three all game. They said, just magic March. It was great to see early.
Love it. Exactly. That's really the big development so far. Everything else has been pretty status quo already today. That the only real big stunner was really that game. Missouri beat Utah State. I was mildly surprised by that because I thought Utah State would play a lot better, but they didn't. But the big main event story, the headliner so far early today is definitely Furman taking down Virginia in the early slate. All right, let's get into the card for tonight. We've got 8 games still on the board in first round NCAA tournament action tonight. We will begin with UL Lafayette and Tennessee. The Volunteers, 12-point favorites in this game, and the total sitting at around the 130s range in this one. I like the UL Lafayette side. I'll be honest. I had already made up my mind before the tournament started, regardless of who they were playing. I was going to fade Tennessee because I faded Tennessee every year in the tournament pretty much. I don't have faith in this team in March. I don't have faith in Rick Barnes in March. I don't like the way the team played offensively without Ziegler in the lineup. They have to build a margin, and if you're going to win by margin in this tournament, you've got to be able to put the ball in the basket. I don't know if Tennessee is going to be able to do that consistently here tonight. Lafayette, there are concerns with them and the fact that their offense really doesn't play well against Tennessee's defense. Their strength offensively is Tennessee's strength defensively. So this could be a game where UL Lafayette's really going to have to hope Tennessee has a more offensive struggles to hang in there. But I'm willing to bet that happens, because I just don't trust what I'm seeing from the Volunteers and their offensive execution. I mean, Vescovy is not exactly what I call Mr. Crunch Time. He can be a good player. He can have good games, but he's not someone that I look at as a game breaker, a closer, someone that can take over during the game. So I think it's a more competitive game than the point spread indicates. I'm on the Ragin' Cajuns there, plus the points. What do you think there, C-Mac?
I know. I think I might have a bet with it. The only thing I mentioned is Tennessee is kind of beat up. It seemed like teams like this, and anyone that's kind of their level or but they lose for the most part. But I think it's too many too. You mentioned Ziegler, no point guard is going to be tough for them. I am on the under. I just think it's low scoring in this one. They could just rely on their defense. I think Tennessee needs to, and Lafayette, decent team to the under as well. I don't know if they can score, past 60, 65. So I took the under here.
All right, Connor liking the under here. We go to Oral Roberts and Duke. We've got Duke 6-point favorites, 146 the total. This is also in Orlando, Florida, Amway Center, just like the Tennessee game we just talked about. This is one dog I'm not on board with I'm on a lot of dogs today. Furman I took in the earlier game. I'm on UL Lafayette. I think there's a couple more that I'm kind of leaning with today and tomorrow for that matter. But this is one I have a hard time backing, Oral Roberts, even though they made a magical run in the tournament last year. I think teams now are going to know what to expect from Oral Roberts. It's not going to be, they're not going to sneak up on anybody anymore. Duke's playing their best basketball too. And the one thing that bothers me in this game is Oral Roberts is a small team in the paint, very small. They don't have a whole lot of big time girth, size, height in the paint, and certainly their athleticism. You worry about that there. And who's going to match up against Filipowski, who is coming off, a great run through the ACC tournament, deserving winner of the ACC tournament player of the tournament award. In that when Duke won the ACC tournament this past week. I mean, so that's a real concern for me, and it could be just lay up and put back city here for Duke going into this game. So I haven't bet Duke because I don't want to lay it against a team we know has a proven track record of making a run in the tournament like Oral, but I don't know if this is a great matchup for Oral. I think I would the one thing I might do, Duke in a money line parlay. Just to be safer. I mean, they could cover the 6, don't get me wrong, but I do think they win the game. Maybe I'll put them in a money line parlay with one of the favorites I think could get the job done tonight. Let's say Texas, for example. At least if I put Duke with Texas, it'll bring the price down on both of them. But yeah, Duke, I think, does win this game. I think the total could go either way, personally. I could see it staying under because Duke's defense has been better. But I could also see, Oral's going to push pace. We know that. That's the way they play. So that also tells you the game could go over the total. I think that's a tough one as far as the total's concerned. What do you think here, C-Mac?
Yeah, I could real quick before I hit it. Real Deal Prime, the grinder, the 220. Dono,
yeah, thanks for the dono, guys. We
appreciate it. Shout out to everyone in the chat. Hit the like button. I know a little different show with the games going on, but let's get to it tonight.
Oh, trust me, I'm trying to focus so much on the show, and it's not easy, yeah.
Yeah, I know. It just seems short, this line. You mentioned the size. Really, it's Vanover, and that's it. He needs to play big. But Filipowski will probably take him outside. We'll see how well he can do, the old Arkansas transfer. And then Max A-Smith needs to be just big. I mean, he's got to have your stars in these games. If Oral Roberts is going to do well, he's got to have over 20 for sure. I thought so too, but man, with the total, the under, the Duke, the defense kind of it's been playing like it has. I don't know how this game goes over, really, unless I don't know if they want to get a shootout with Oral Roberts in that one. So I like the under. I was even looking at Oral Roberts' team total under 70.5. I don't know if they get there. I'm gonna watch. I'm not on it too. I remember a couple years ago we were on Oral Roberts. That whole run was really, really good. I think people are kind of that's why, they're the best team. And the Summit's so good. I touched on earlier when they, first game of the year, they snuck in and covered 8 against St. Mary's. They got blown out by Houston by 32. They lost by 10 to Utah State and 7 to New Mexico. So those were kind of the games before conference play. So if you look at that, it's like, man, this is a low price. It's cheap on Duke, but the other way, they're live. So this is a watch for me. That live, but I'm looking at the under with them. I don't know if I'm going to pull the trigger, but that's where I'm at.
All right, good stuff. Yeah, someone on Charleston just missed a 3 and it hit the side of the backboard. You've missed it badly when that happens. That's ugly when you see that shit happen. All right, next up, we've got Northern Kentucky and Houston. Houston 18.5-point home favorites, 121.5 the total. I'm not involved in the side. I mean, Sasser obviously is a big deal for Houston. Going into this game in terms of his status. Definitely I think when you look at it, the latest on him from what I read is that he is set to play or set to actually going to be a game time decision is what they actually said about Sasser going into tonight. Infamous game time decision is what they're saying. So anyway, regardless of whether he plays or not, I still think Houston's going to win, and they still may cover because, look, Northern Kentucky's not a great offensive team. They are a good defensive team. I'm focusing more on the total. It's 121.5, and I know why that is. Northern Kentucky was the best defensive team in their conference, the Horizon League. Houston is one of the best defensive teams in the country, so I get why this total is that low. And if Sasser's out, that probably does hurt Houston more offensively, no doubt. But I think it can be a sneaky over, and here's why. Northern Kentucky is a horrible defensive rebounding team, terrible at that in that department. Okay. And Houston, for years, including this year, what have they been? One of the best offensive rebounding teams in college basketball. They've crushed the glass. They've gotten on the boards, they've gotten on the glass, and they've gotten layups and putbacks, and they've just gotten easy buckets around the rim. And that really could happen here because Northern Kentucky's not strong rebounding and even worse defensively rebounding the basketball. So this, to me, Houston's going to have their chance to get a lot of easy baskets. And that could suddenly make a total that's sitting at 121 look pretty low. So I think this has a chance to just creep up over the top. I could see this one being a final score. Let's say for Houston, I could see them hitting 72, and I could see 51 for Northern Kentucky, something like that. That's 123 points it goes over. I could see a score like that. So I'm going to take a small shot over this very low total here. Conor, what do you think? Northern Kentucky, Houston.
Yeah, is it too low? The thing is that Houston get to that 75 type. I don't know if it's the play because Northern Kentucky, it's 50 points, their team total. And they might just get over it. They struggled too when they got up to anybody. They lost to FAU by 15. They only scored 52 there. They lost to Kent State by 22, Washington State by 21. They scored 47 in that game. So yeah, this is going to be rough for Northern Kentucky. That's it on it. Houston wins here, easy. I don't know, right, easy, but they win.
Yeah, this won't be like Sasser doesn't play. This isn't the game they're going to miss him as much. They'll miss him the next game, if he doesn't play in the second round. And that's probably the game they're hoping he comes back for is Saturday when they play the next game here in the tournament, the 8-9 winner in this region. All right, next up, we've got Auburn and Iowa. Auburn 2-point favorites here, 151.5 the total. You might as well call this a home game for Auburn, or pretty close. I mean, this is in Birmingham. We know what kind of home boost that gave Alabama this afternoon. They're romping Texas A&M Corpus Christi. And I think it's going to give a big boost as well to this Auburn team playing in their own home state. And it's not just that. These are two teams, by the way, I would rather bet against both of these teams rather than bet on them. But I'm going to make the case here for Auburn a little bit. They're playing in their home state. I don't like Iowa and their defense at all. I don't like the way they played in the tournament here under Fran McCaffrey. And I just don't trust that team to get stops. They're a good offensive team, like usual, but can they get stops when it matters most? That becomes the big question, and I've not seen enough of that from them in the years past in the tournament. So I like Auburn. I like the over, too. I think the over might even be my stronger stance in this game because I think you'll see points from both teams, and I think it gets up and over this number. What do you think here, Conor?
Yeah, I bet the over. 151. This was like the late game where I thought there's points here, no early game, all that stuff. But man, like we were talking earlier, Iowa too in the tournament, their last 8 games here, 7-1 to the over, and Auburn, the defense just kind of where to go. We mentioned they weren't that good, but they were playing great early on. Their games have I think they've gone 4 of their last 5 over. 4 of the last 5 have gone over. And some big numbers. I think we got up and down, up and down. Iowa could win, if they shoot the lights out. But you mentioned being in Birmingham there. My leans to Auburn. And they're just a tough team to trust. But 2 teams I don't trust, really. So I lean that way. But, yeah, I already bet the over, 151.
Yeah, definitely. I think we're going to see points there in that game. All right, Penn State, Texas A&M. This is in Des Moines, Iowa. Wells Fargo Arena. We've got Texas A&M 2.5-point favorites, 135.5 the total again in Des Moines, Iowa here. These two teams. I think A&M could go on a run in this tournament, but I also think there's that slight potential they could get beat tonight because Penn State was that red-hot commodity down the stretch. They've got the guy that can take over if it's close late, Jalen Pickett. There's a lot and Shrewsbury's done a phenomenal job here with Penn State, but I still, at the end of the day, Buzz Williams and this team have been really good now for a longer period of time than Penn State. Penn State just got red hot here in the last week or two. Texas A&M's been playing consistently really good basketball for about a month to 2 months now, really since conference play started. I still trust them and their defense and their ability maybe to put the clamps down on a guy like Pickett. And I like A&M a little bit. I don't love this game. my thought is I want to back A&M next game if they advance. That's going to be the game I really look to take A&M plus the points in their next game. Not so much tonight, but I do like them enough to have a small bet on them because I do think they get past Penn State. It'll be a good basketball game and competitive, but A&M for me, I think, gets it done. What do you think, Connor?
I think it'll be good too. I like, Auburn, kind of the championship. I mean, Texas A&M just kind of got blown out there. They played so well. I mentioned this is a 7 seed. I thought this team was a 4 or 5 seed. They were the second best team in the SEC all year. Solid defense. But I was that guy, Babano. They came in and covered there late for Purdue, but I was on them every game, Penn State. And they got the guards. The shots are big. Will they go down? 12th in the country, 39% from 3. You mentioned Pickett, Lundy, and what's big in these tournament, guard play. That could be their one thing. But I think A&M's, the defense is a little bit better here. This is a watch. This one's tough for me. I'm just kind of going back and forth. In the end, I do lead A&M. I think they get the job done. I think they want to keep this in the 60s. I know they got it done. They won a lot of games by 5 points, 6 points. I talked about it earlier on Jimmy's show, like a little close, and now they're laying, got to win by 3 here. But if they win this, I thought they could go a little bit deep here. This team, I think, could go to the Elite 8, if they win here.
I think there's the potential. The ceiling is there, I believe, for them, no question. All right, Colgate, Texas, also in Des Moines, Iowa. Texas, 13-point favorites, 150 the total. Don't forget that Colgate now has been in the tournament for a couple of years, and at least in the first half, they've done a really good job hanging around. So kind of like I did with Princeton against Arizona. I took Princeton plus 8 in the first half, and it cashed. They were down 1 at halftime. I think this could be, if you like Colgate, take them first half. And then it seems in the second half and some of these recent tournament games they've had, that's when they start to fall off and the other team kind of wears them out in the second half. We've seen that. I could see that here as well. If you're going to look at the side, that's the way I'd approach it. If you like Colgate, look first half. I think the full game spread, it could be, right around the closing number when it's all said and done, because I do expect Texas might flex their athletic superiority as the game goes on. But the bet I like here is the way the total's moved. It's already moved up. I agree with it. I think it goes over this number because Colgate is a very good offensive team, and they're a tricky team to prep for. Matt Langille's done a nice job. He's probably going to get a coaching job somewhere else at a bigger program very soon. And Texas, I think, could struggle with that a bit. They just run very sophisticated, good offense, pretty much inside out. They can make threes. I think Texas will give up points here, but here's the problem for Colgate. They are undersized down low. Texas has size with Timmy Allen, the other big guy they have, and they could absolutely eat in the paint, eat around the rim, and get so many easy baskets, a ton of easy baskets against this Colgate team. They just don't have the physicality. They don't have the length to deal with that Colgate at all. That's by far their weakness going into this game. So I envision plenty of easy baskets in the paint area for Texas. So, and Colgate will play fast. Colgate will push pace. They're very efficient. So I think you put it all together, we have the elements of a game that can go over this total, even at 150 in this one. Connor, what do you think? Colgate, Texas.
Yeah, Arkansas. It was nice. Easy first half winner there. That's the thing. The more I've gone over this, the Colgate defense, I keep going back. They gave up 93 to Auburn. A couple of these, they're just not good. Texas's team total's only 82.5. I'm pretty sure. Let me double check. I had it written down. I think they get that. If you don't want to mess with Texas, and you mentioned you could do these teams all in the money line. All like 5 of these big seeds or 6 of them just to win. Texas would be another one. Colgate, though, number 1 team from 3. If that gets hot, like you mentioned, first half, is that enough points? Maybe, because if they are, they just need to shoot to keep it in. And if they're bricking, it could be a long night.
Exactly. Like Furman. We thought they were going to get blown out early against Virginia because they couldn't make a 3 for the first 10 minutes of that game. And then all of a sudden they got red hot, and it was pretty much that way for the majority of the rest of the game as well. So definitely keep that in mind. Charleston, by the way, has tied things up with San Diego State, 53 apiece now with about 3 minutes left. So we got it down to the wire. What did Kevin Harlan get the quotient for all the good games today? I mean, the only two really good games today that have been close and down to the wire, Kevin Harlan was calling them both. So it's his lucky day, apparently, for CBS.
Oh, they love it. He gets those big calls,
Yeah. Good! He's got him in a straitjacket. Yeah. Gotta love Kevin Harlan. He's a beauty. All right, one of the best. All right, next up, we've got Boise State, Northwestern. Northwestern 2-point favorites, 128 the total in this game. I mean, I definitely think this is a low-scoring defensive battle. I get why the total is what it is. Neither team's going to play fast. They're good defensively. They can both sputter at times offensively, Boise and Northwestern. But I like Northwestern here. I do. I think Northwestern with Boo Buie, I think he's got the potential to be a difference maker late in the game. Him and Marcus Shaver, it's going to come down to those two guys who's going to end up making the big shot late in what should be a close, tightly contested defensive battle. But I'm going to side a little bit with Northwestern here in this game. Money line at -130. Connor, what do you think? Boise, Northwestern.
That's what I kept going back to. The Mountain West is is not looking good, but I think this is one Boise they could get. I thought that a little bit with Utah State. In the end, the more I went after I looked at it, backed off without Missouri, was it. Northwestern didn't play good basketball down the stretch too. They lost 4 or 5. And I just thought some of their metrics, the luck, and their numbers are pretty bad. But man, this team doesn't shoot it great. Boise, you were probably on a bunch of them, was more of an over team this year, surprisingly. Yeah. Is this too low? But I think it's a kind of a slow game. I lean under. It's low at this number. So yeah, I think I'm going to stay off the side in the end. Maybe bet it live. We're going to be watching all these, so I'll get in there.
And we mentioned the Mountain West was not good in the tournament last year, and lo and behold, we've already got one Mountain West team that's played today, and what happened? They got sent home by Missouri, Utah State. So, again, the Mountain West struggles. Maybe are they going to continue? We'll see, but Boise's got to try to change that narrative. And San Diego State right now, they're in a fight for their lives right now with Charleston. Another Mountain West team could be sent home. So, yeah, issues with that conference again in the NCAA tournament, perhaps. All right, NC Asheville, UCLA. We've got UCLA 17.5, 18-point favorites, 135.5 the total in this game. I'm on Asheville in the over in this game, and the thinking is very simple. If you're UCLA, you want to win the game and move on. You don't care about beating this team by 20. Okay, you don't have Jalen Clark. You may not have Adem Boma, the big guy as well. We'll have to wait and see on that. But certainly Clark is out. It's your best defender. I think that's going to be a problem, at least a little bit, against Asheville. Asheville can score insides, can score outside. They've got the stretch 4 big in Drew Pember, who can score around the bucket and stretch out and shoot a 3 as well. That's why we call him a stretch 4. He can do both. And that's a difficult matchup, especially when you don't have your best defender in Jalen Clark. So I think this is a get in and get out for UCLA. Get the win. Who cares what margin it is? Just get the victory. And I think Asheville offensively is efficient enough to compete in this game. So I like Asheville plus the points. And I also like this game to go over what I think is a very modest total, and I don't think UCLA is as good defensively without Clark. So total's actually been bet up. People seeing what I'm seeing, 134.5. It's now 135.5. I agree. I think it can get over that number. What do you think here, C-Mac?
Yeah. Pember I think he's got to be, real big in this one. And I think UCLA pulls away. The defense is really good. And I wish Clark didn't go out. And Bona, if he's out too, I'd really like it because I like Asheville here first half, but I might split it. UCLA, I think, pulls away in the end because that was a bummer. I thought they were one of my teams I've had to go all the way, at least the Final Four. And I don't know. I mean, they could still get there, but that hurts. But yeah, I'm looking at Asheville here maybe early, and it's the first half's 10.5. I'm looking at it.
All right, we are not done yet. That's it for the Thursday night games, but we're gonna also talk to 8 games tomorrow on Friday afternoon before we wrap this show up. We're gonna start with the games tomorrow at Nationwide Arena, Columbus, Ohio, Vermont and Marquette. Marquette 10.5-point favorites, 144 the total here in this game. Marquette obviously going all the way to the Big East tournament championship last week. And sometimes those teams don't always play their best in that very first NCAA tournament game as well when they make that run. So beware of that here going into this game here against Vermont. This is another one where I'm tempted by the dog in some fashion. Like, I don't know if Vermont's going to win this game outright. I'm not so sure they will, but I do think 10.5, 11 is a lot to be giving a team that's very fluid offensively. You talk about a team that just runs good offense, is very efficient, takes good shots, doesn't turn the ball over a ton. That's Vermont. And actually, Vermont has the profile of a team that should match up decently with Marquette, because Marquette feasts on opposing turnovers. They may not get as many of them here against a disciplined team like Vermont. So I'm definitely leaning to the dog here for sure, plus the points. I'm just deciding, how do I want to bet it? Do I want all full game, or do I go maybe a first half full game split? But I do think in this spot, Vermont's capable of staying in the number. Conor, what do you think here, Vermont Marquette?
Yeah, they might. I'm going to look at this game a little bit more, but I kind of like the over, or I might even look Marquette's team total over in this game. I don't know what it is, too. Let me double check. But that's where I'm looking. I think it could maybe get over, but I think Marquette's team total is the way to go.
Yeah, I do definitely think the over could get there as well. I mean, I'm not as strong on the total, but this is one where I would be over or nothing for sure as far as the total is concerned in this one.
77.5.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely. All right, next up, we've got Fairleigh Dickinson and Purdue. Of course, Purdue, the number 1 seed in this region, and Fairleigh Dickinson, the team they played in the first 4 to get here, beating Texas Southern. Purdue, 23-point favorites, 145 the total. You know what? I'm thinking maybe Fairleigh Dickinson first half in this game, just because, look, they played Tuesday. They're going to have some momentum. They're going to have some positive momentum going into this game. Maybe Purdue, they catch Purdue early, hang around for a bit. I don't know if I would trust them for the full game, but I also know I don't want to lay this many with Purdue. I just don't. I think Purdue, as I've mentioned before, of all the number 1 seeds, I think they're the most vulnerable to be sent home first. Why? Because the guard play is lacking compared to a lot of those other teams. I love Edey. We all think the world of him. He's superb. He's an incredible big man. He's got great footwork. He's a great finisher around the rim. He's a great passer for a guy of his size. When they double him, he can pass out of it and look for an open shooter. But here's the problem. Many of the time, the open shooter for Purdue doesn't make the shot. Okay, and that's been a consistent problem for them this season. So, I definitely think when you look at this game, Purdue's still going to overwhelm potentially Dickinson in the athlete department, and certainly from that standpoint, it could be a problem for them. Dickinson, that is. But I think in the first half, they might be able to hang around, and then maybe they wear down later in the game. So I am kind of tempted by plus 13.5 first half look on Fairleigh Dickinson FDU here in this game. So interesting to see how that plays out. But that's the first look for me, would be that. All right, next up, we've got Florida Atlantic and Memphis. This definitely should be one of the best games of the day tomorrow, if you ask me. 8 versus 9 matchup. We have Memphis here, 2-point favorites, 153 the total in this game. Total's gone up 3 points here in this game. I agree with that. You've got a great offensive team in Florida Atlantic, extremely efficient. Memphis obviously is going to push pace. They're a little bit more erratic with their shooting, but definitely going to get pace, definitely going to get a lot of open floor transition basketball here in this game. And I think you're going to see points, and more points. So I do agree with the total going up to 153. I think it goes over. And I'm on FAU here, +2. I mean, Dusty May's a great coach. He's done a great job. Penny Hardaway, I got to see him in a big spot, big tournament spot, close game. Can you scheme it up? Can you X and O? Can you get it done? We know you can recruit. Can you coach them up? Can you make adjustments at halftime? Can you do all that shit you got to do at this time of year to win big-time tournament games? I think the jury is still out on Penny Hardaway from that standpoint. So I don't mind taking FAU plus the points. And I think that game goes over. Conor's back with us. Conor, Fairleigh Dickinson, Purdue we talked about, as well as this game here, Florida Atlantic, Memphis. What do you think of those two?
Yeah, the Purdue game I'm not even going to talk about there. And Memphis, man, this game I think is going to be pretty good. Man, I know you were high on FAU here. This line 2.5 has come down to 1.5.
It was a great win against Houston for Memphis. Don't get me wrong, great win. But first of all, Houston didn't give 2 shits. I'm convinced of it. They were just like, let's get this done. That game meant more to me than Memphis. You can't say otherwise. You can't convince me that game didn't mean more to Memphis, that AAC championship last Sunday. Plus, with Sasser out, it's like, let's just get this the hell over with. And, I've got to be convinced Memphis is capable. That's all I have to say. I need convincing. They beat Florida Atlantic. I'll give them their credit, but I got to see it first.
Florida Atlantic's going to this conference too, right? Next year, I think so.
I believe so. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. Right now, I have a lean to FAU in this game. This might get over. What's the total?
Yeah, it's gone up 150 to 153. I agree with that.
It's a little high, but yeah.
I agree with that. All right, USC, Michigan State. Michigan State 2-point favorites, 137.5 the total. You know what? They just have a way better backcourt, in my opinion, on paper, Michigan State. And I know they looked – I can't explain how bad they were against Ohio State at the end of that Big Ten tournament, but I am going to lean to Michigan State here. I just think Tyson Walker and Hauser and that group of veterans and guards that they have, it's better than anything. And I didn't like at all anything out of USC late in the season. I don't think they played good basketball at all, Andy Enfield's team late in the season. I know the Big Ten has had issues in this tournament. I get it. People are a little bit gun-shy to back teams from this conference. But at the end of the day, I don't think USC played all that great down the stretch. I think the better guard play is with Michigan State, and I think that's the difference. So Spartans for me. What do you think, Connor?
Yeah, it's an ugly game. SC, I thought, played well all year long. Lost the last 3 games. Michigan State lost 3 of 4. You mentioned they do have a bit more, senior guys. You mentioned Walker, Hall, all these guys. I lean that way too. But right now I don't have a bet on this basketball game. Right now I'm off.
All right, next up we've got VCU and St. Mary's, a really good one tomorrow in the afternoon. St. Mary's 4-point favorites, 122 being the total in this one. I like VCU as an underdog that can not only cover but win this game outright. Think about all of the things that are perspiring here against St. Mary's. St. Mary's is a West Coast team traveling to Albany, New York for this game, and an early start game. It's going to be 11 a.m. local time is when this game is going to start. Keep that in mind. That's a problem. No question about that. And I think when you look at it here, VCU, with the way they played in the A-10 tournament, they played extremely well. Keep that in mind. St. Mary's, I think, they struggled with teams that'll go full court against them. I'm not convinced their ball handling is great to hold up against that. And I think VCU can capitalize on that. The situationals point to VCU. Again, the long trip from West Coast to East Coast for St. Mary's. And you're laying points with St. Mary's too. Like I could say St. Mary's if they're an underdog here. Yeah, I'm interested. You got to lay points with them starting at 11 a.m. Pacific time on their body clock out in the East, against a VCU team that could really make life difficult on their guards who sometimes struggle with, valuing the basketball. There is definitely all kinds of issues here, I think, for St. Mary's. VCU does have some offensive doldrums at times. They've got to be able to make some shots. They've got to be able to get that. But I saw that offense finally spring to life, in that A-10 tournament. And if they can just make some shots, they've got a chance here to not only cover this number, getting 4.5, they could win outright, in my opinion. So for me, I'd be VCU plus the points in this one. Connor, what do you think with VCU St. Mary's?
I think St. Mary's is a little bit better, but you mentioned the early start time. These teams, this could be just a slow, grinded out battle. VCU is pretty good in their non-conference. They did get beat down by Memphis, but they beat Pitt, lost by Arizona State by 4. They beat Vandy. I want the points too here. That's what I'm looking at right now. So I like the dog here.
Yeah, VCU for me.
Just don't turn the ball over.
Yeah, that's right.
And they'll be good, I think.
Yeah, I agree. All right, Iona, UConn. We've got Connecticut 9-point favorites, 141 the total in this game. This is definitely one where I think Iona early might be able to hang a little bit. I think as the game goes on, I worry about them a little bit, but definitely I think when you look at this matchup here, it's going to be a situation where if you're Iona, you got Jean Baptiste, you've got some really, really good players offensively on this team. And UConn, to me, down the stretch, erratic as can be from January onward. There's pressure on this team. They haven't been great tournament teams lately. Danny Hurley as well. Can he get his team over the hump? He's not been a great NCAA tournament. Rick Pitino is just, he is always a coach that's been able to do pretty well here in the NCAA tournament. So I think Iona early in the game can hang. But the one thing is, we're talking about the Metro Atlantic, and that is a pretty weak conference as far as mid-majors are concerned. And you worry if they're able to hang around here for 40 minutes. So it worked for Princeton. I think it'll work with, Asheville tonight with some of these teams. You take the first half. I think that's the way I would approach this one. I think the total going down, I get it to a certain degree, but UConn offensively was starting to play better late. Their defense was kind of up and down. Iona's going to play fast. So the more the total goes down, the more interest I have in the over now that it's down to 141. What do you think here, Connor?
Yeah, and UConn just needs to go by that, with their defense and make this, I don't think they want to get up and down with Iona. I think Iona, too, first half, has got the chance. If they could kind of jump on it, hit some big shots, they could stay in, But in UConn, what are we going to get? The team that was so good early on, then hits the lull, played a lot better its last 10, but they lost to get bounced out of the conference there. I'm going to look at this one a little bit more, but that's where I'm looking. Yeah, Iona here early.
All right, looking at Iona early. I agree. I think if you like Iona, you take them early. That's the more trustworthy look. All right, Pittsburgh, Iowa State. Iowa State, 4.5-point favorites, 131 the total. These games are at Greensboro Coliseum, Greensboro, North Kakalaki tomorrow. I'm back on Pitt again as a dog here. I mean, first of all, Iowa State's not a team offensively I like laying points with. Pitt's got a little momentum after the big win against Mississippi State in the first four. I know they have to travel a little bit, Dayton down to Greensboro, but they've at least played in the tournament setting. They're again in the preferred point spread role. They've been money in the bank as underdogs this year. Pitt, they've really been just phenomenal catching points this year. We know Iowa State's offense is a little flighty. We know away from their home court, they haven't always been good this year. Away from, when they don't play home games, all of a sudden the Cyclones, they're very, very beatable. So I like Pitt here. I like the idea of getting them plus 4.5 in this game. What do you think, C-Mac?
Yeah, when we were on the show Sunday, the live, I said, whoever wins this, I think wins this game. The winner of that, and we liked Pitt, and that's where I'm staying with the 4.5. I don't trust Iowa State. Their defense could shut it down, but even with the lead, and you mentioned covering the number here is the key. The bad free throw shooting team, not a great jump shooting team, and that can make this, be a low scoring game, which is only at 130. But I think there's enough baskets to be made with, Hinson, Burton, Cummings. I think they're just too athletic. So I like the 4.5.
All right, definitely liking the 4.5 indeed as well. I agree. Pitt Panthers have been our team all year. How can we abandon? And we cashed with them against Mississippi State. How can we abandon ship now?
I think
all right,
one more time, at least.
Exactly. Kennesaw State, Xavier. We've got Xavier 12.5-point favorites, 154 being the total. I really like the over in this game. The side I think could go either way. This is another one though where Kennesaw is not a bad team. They've got good offensive group. Xavier defensively hit or miss sometimes. I think Xavier could overwhelm them though with their offense because Xavier certainly has been very good at the offensive end of the court. Kennesaw, not a great defensive team. Both teams are going to play fast, so you're going to get pace. You're going to get, I think, offensive capability on both sides. So, I lean Kennesaw. Might have a small bet on that, but what I like most and what I prefer in this game is the over here around the 154 range. Connor, what do you think?
This is one I'd like to take Kennesaw. I just defensively, I don't know if they can do much here. They're going to have to score a ton. They had a couple of bad blow. They also played 14 to Indiana, 10 to Florida early. They did beat VCU, or they lost to VCU by 3. Yeah, I want to look at this more. I don't know if this is enough points here with Kennesaw tomorrow.
All right, we have 2 games left for Friday afternoon, NC State and Creighton. We have Creighton 5-point favorites, 148.5 the total. This is a really good game because both of these teams are good in the backcourt. You're going to get good guards on both sides. That should be something that's going to be very interesting to watch unfold here. And it's going to be a matter of who's going to make those big shots, who's going to be able to take care of the basketball, and get the job done in crunch time. This should be a really good game. But again, you've got obviously Nembhard for Creighton, Joyner, and just for NC State, some just like I say, outstanding guard play both sides. NC State's going to look to push pace. Creighton has not played as fast in recent years, look to slow it down, but I do understand why they're betting the total up a little bit. There's overs I like more than this one, but I could see it still getting up and over the number 148.5 in this game. Remember, Creighton is a little bit better defensively than they've been in the past, and they don't play as fast as they did in the past earlier in the McDermott days. But I still think they can get up and over the total. I think it's a pretty close game, pretty competitive game. I do think Creighton wins, so I don't want to take NC State, but at the same time, I don't want to lay 5 against them either. So I think Creighton wins what could be a close game, and the game goes over the total. I probably will only bet the total, though, in all honesty. Connor, what do you think?
This is a game that I really, really like. You talked about the total at 148. It's a little bit high. I think Creighton's a better team and wins, but the 5, I don't know. And NC State has been pretty good. I'm betting on them all year long. It's like what team shows up? Joyner, these guys come to play. They have some players that could flat out get to the rim and score. So they might be a team I might be on the points, here, as much as I like Creighton. So this is a wait and see for me here.
Nothing wrong with that, of course, for wait and see when the game is tomorrow. You've still certainly got plenty of time to make your decision and take a look at what you end up liking here for NC State and Creighton. Yeah, that's exactly what I'm thinking, Trap God. I think Creighton is going to win. I do think they're still the better team. Keep in mind, they were rolling early in the season. Then Kalkbrenner got hurt, and then they went through a swoon, and then they got Kalkbrenner back. They started playing well again, and then they kind of fell off again late in the season. But I know when they're all together, and it wouldn't shock me to see them put it all together and actually not only win tomorrow, but they could make a run. That's a team that's talented enough to make a run. Creighton, here in this NCAA tournament. But can they just put it all together? I'm waiting for that to happen. If let's say they roll tomorrow, let's say they beat NC State by double digits, I'm probably going to bet Creighton on the weekend in their second game if they look that good. Because then it's going to give me maybe some confidence that, hey, they're ready to put it all together like they did early in the season when they were looking like a top 10 team in the country early in the season, Creighton. So, yeah, I'm with you. If I were to bet something with the side, I would put Creighton in a money line parlay for sure rather than lay the 5. All right, the last game, Santa Barbara and Baylor. We've got Baylor 10.5-point favorites. 142 is the total in this game. I love Baylor's perimeter game. I love their backcourt. We all do. That's been the thing we've sung the praises about with Baylor basketball all year. L.J. Cryer, Alan Flagler, Keontae George. We like them there. It's a very good basketball team there, but they're soft a little bit inside. They don't defend. They don't guard consistently enough. That's an issue. And also keep in mind Langston Love. He's been battling an injury too. We'll see if he's able to go here for.
He's
Baylor.
out. He's
out. Yeah. He's out for sure. Jalen Bridges. I mean, like I say, Jalen Bridges, Cryer, Flagler, Keontae George. Love the perimeter, but their defense is just so spotty. It's concerning to me going into this matchup because say what you will about the Gauchos. 20-4 is what they started the season. This is Joe Pasternak's done a nice job with this program for years. No doubt. A.J. Mitchell is a walking bucket. Miles Norris is pretty damn good as well. This transfer from Cal had a pretty good season. Like they've got guys that have transferred into Cal Santa Barbara that are from bigger major programs. So, to me, you look at this situation here, it's not a cakewalk for Baylor, not at all. Santa Barbara has the potential here with the pieces they have to make life difficult on them. And you could argue that you trust their defense more than Baylor's. But I've also seen with these Big West teams, they've also at times been outmanned, by these bigger conference schools. So that's the one concern I have here. I mean, I don't want to lay this many with Baylor, but I do think Baylor does win. So, it has me probably off the game, but I'm not ready to lay this many with Baylor, even though I do think they win this game. I do think, though, that Santa Barbara does have some potential to keep this closer than it would indicate, especially if those Baylor defensive woes are going to creep back into the system again for them. Actually, that's why I would probably play the over, if anything, here. You're talk 144. Santa Barbara, for years, they've been a slow down team, half court, defensive minded. They didn't exactly play that way down the stretch. You actually look at the way it started to go for them down the stretch. They started to become more of an over team, scoring more, but giving up more points. So
20 and 12
over.
Yeah, over.
Exactly. So maybe at 142, I have a little bit of interest now in the over here in this game more than anything else. Connor, what do you think here in this one, Santa Barbara, Baylor?
Yeah, I don't know if Santa Barbara, can stop Baylor. And early on in the year, they were that under team. And the totals were too low, and they went over. Is this the early start though? Where we maybe first
1:30 p.m. Eastern, and it's 11:30 a.m. local time in Denver. This game.
Maybe that first half under, full game over, something like that. Because Baylor, pretty good team. Because I think they scored their team total, I think 76.5.
Yep.
I think that's something that could get there. I want to see more. I think they win this game. I didn't see enough out of Santa Barbara. They didn't beat anybody. They just got by. So it's tough. I mean, it is 11 points, but it's there for a reason. And Baylor lost its last two games, looked horrible. So, but the guards, like you mentioned, Flagger, all these guys, George, big time bucket, big time players. So maybe their team total, in the end, if you don't want to lay this, 11 and a half, take the over 76.5.
All right, there we go. So there you have it. That's the Thursday night card and the Friday afternoon card for the NCAA tournament. For the next, I would say, 12 hours, you're covered. Of course, tomorrow on the Net Profit Show, it'll be Conor, Mac, and Cab. They'll talk about the Friday night games tomorrow on the show. And I'll be on with Jimmy the Bag, and we'll probably be going through pretty much all the Friday games, I believe, on Betting with the Bag, him and I, tomorrow. So make sure you join us for that. And then we'll all reconvene this weekend for our back-to-back Saturday and Sunday weekend college basketball Pub Hub shows. Saturday at 10 a.m. Eastern, Sunday at 11 a.m. Eastern. So make sure you're aware of the start time. We'll start at 10 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Pacific on Saturday, 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific on Sunday. But we will be with you for the round of 32 on Saturday and Sunday. And we will break down all the games for you on the weekend with the college basketball Pub Hub. So join us for that. It'll be me, Conor, Mac, and Cab for those two shows. All right. We think it'll be Cab on Sunday. We'll get Cab for a Sunday show eventually. I know it. All right. Hit the like button. We appreciate it very much. 130 live viewers. Hit that like button. I was going to talk about the bracket challenge, but it's too late. The tournament's already started. Hope you entered it because you had until 12:15 p.m. Eastern time, the start of the first game. But it'll be a lot of fun, and good luck to everybody in the bracket challenge. Hope you all end up getting into the top three and getting into the money with that. All right. We've got best bets to wrap up this edition of the show coming right up, right after we hear from Manscaped and Southtown 101. Southtown 101, when you're in San Antonio, Texas, stop in. Great food, drinks, live music, DJs, karaoke. Southtown 101 and manscaped.com. Promo code PubSports. Get 20% off and free shipping of anything at manscaped.com. Promo code PubSports. All right, best bets to wrap it up for this edition of the college basketball net profit show. I believe I swept best bets because I gave you two. I gave you one for the NIT last night. It won. And I gave you one for today. Well, I shouldn't say it hasn't won yet. But Arkansas is up, so we're in decent shape. Illinois closed the gap a little bit, but they're still up by 8 right now. Arkansas with 15 minutes to go, so we hope we can bring that home into the win column. But I'll give you two best bets on this show as well. We'll give you one for tonight, one for tomorrow afternoon. Connor, what do you like for best bet?
Yeah, I already gave the Iowa Auburn. the over 151. But I'm going to this. I'm going to see if I can find an 81.5. The 82.5 is minus 105. That's Texas's team total. Whether Colgate shoots well and is in this, I don't trust their defense. I think Texas gets over that number. So I don't know. I think I can find 81.5 if I can get this 82 at minus 105, but I've added that.
All right, there you go. Best bet for Conor Mack. My best bets, I should say. I'll give you two. I'll give you one for tonight, and I'll give you one for tomorrow afternoon. The play for tonight for me, I'm going to go UL Lafayette. I got plus 12. Unfortunately, it's down to 11, and 11 is probably the only the best number that's out there. So we'll go UL Lafayette plus 11 against Tennessee. That'll be my best bet for tonight. I think at the very least, it's a relatively competitive game. I don't trust Tennessee's offense to win by that kind of a margin. So that'll be tonight's best bet. Tomorrow's best bet here with Friday, we're going to go in the afternoon. I almost gave you a night game. No, we'll go with the afternoon games, the games we talked about for best bet. And I'm going to go for tomorrow's best bet with that Florida Atlantic Memphis over 153. I think it goes over that total. So Florida Atlantic Memphis over 153, Friday afternoon best bet. And UL Lafayette plus 11 against Tennessee for tonight's best bet. There we go for tonight's two best bets for me for this Thursday College Basketball Net Profit Show. That'll wrap up this edition of the College Basketball Net Profit Show. Thanks to everyone for joining us. Make sure you join Conor and Cab tomorrow, 5 p.m. Eastern for the Friday edition. And we'll all be back Saturday again for the College Basketball Pub Up at 10 a.m. Eastern. Round of 32 breakdown coming up Saturday morning.
Hit the like.
Make sure you join us for that. And hit the like button one last time on the way out. We appreciate it very much. For Conor Mack, I'm Ian Cameron. Let's have a great Thursday night. Enjoy the madness. Cash some tickets. Whatever bet you end up on, hopefully it is a winner. And we will see you again tomorrow on Friday for the College Basketball Net Profit Show, starring Cab and Conor tomorrow right here on Pub Sports Radio.
Peace.
Palooza 2 on the horizon. We're going to have live shows popping off in the Southtown 101. We're going to have a poker tournament, a par 3 golf tournament, UFC San Antonio on the Saturday night. A lot of excitement. Palooza 2, baby.